Well, the economy may be restoring a little bit. The price of gold is up around $1,100 an ounce, went over $1,000. Now it's closing in on 1,100 plus. Oil is at $80. So something is happening in our economy. But our next guest isn't talking about the economy. He has had an amazing, amazing run. He's a former governor of Arkansas, Republican candidate for president. He's written best-selling books on politics and the fate of the GOP. And now with Christmas just 2 months away, he's tackling his most important topic yet.
After a grueling run for the Republican nomination for president last year, Mike Huckabee is busier than ever. From winning the Value Voters straw poll for 2012 to a #1 weekend cable talk show and daily radio commentary, this former Arkansas governor knows a thing or two about the rat race. In his new book, Simple Christmas, 12 Stories That Celebrate the True Holiday Spirit, Huckabee writes about what truly matters this holiday season. 12 intimate stories tell of the man before he became a household name, tales of impatience, trial, and sacrifice. The former Baptist minister goes so far as to admit that with a family history like his, it's a miracle he ever got elected. Huckabee uses his candid stories to remind us all to slow down and enjoy what's truly important this season: family, faith, love, and hope.
Well, Mike Huckabee's here with us. Mike, it's great to see you today. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Pat. What a pleasure to be with you, and especially in light of what was a great day, I think, for conservatives and for believers yesterday in the elections.
All the way. I mean, Bob McDonnell is a graduate of Regent University. He is a strong believer, and it's just marvelous to see that taking place.
It really was, I think, an important day to say that the idea of big government, more control of our families, more control of our budgets, is just not the message that's resonating with people. So I'm delighted to be here today, and thank you for having me to talk about something that may be a little early for some people to talk about Christmas already.
You stepped down out of a political run that was extraordinarily successful. And yet, instead of taking a break, you plunged into a frantic career. What do you do these days?
Well, I'm doing commentary on radio, about 500 stations. I do 3 a day, Monday through Friday. Weekends, I'm doing the Fox News television show. A lot of speaking and traveling around the country to all kinds of groups, campaigning for people. Came to Virginia several times to campaign for Bob McDonnell, in fact. And then when I'm just sort of sitting around with nothing to do, I enjoy writing. It's one of my favorite pastimes. And this book that's coming out, my 7th book, quite frankly, Pat's my favorite. And it's not about politics. It's really the most non-political book I think I've ever done.
It's a very sweet book. It's called A Simple Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. It's some lovely stories in here. It's the kind of thing you can give to people at Christmas time and they'll be blessed. Tell me about the Christmas guitar. That seems to be the forefront in your career. You play in a group that is opened for guys like Willie Nelson and who all else? Charlie Daniels?
Charlie Daniels, Dionne Warwick. We've opened for Grand Funk Railroad and all sorts of people. That guitar was life-changing, and I received it as a Christmas gift when I was 11. I'd wanted it and begged for it for several years. My parents really couldn't afford it. You know, but Pat, when you're 11, you don't look at your parents' tax forms. You don't really know whether they're rich or poor. I didn't realize just how struggling my parents were. And so I kept asking this. Well, they got it for me on my 11th birthday, Christmas. And that gift, it cost them $99. They ordered the guitar from the JCPenney catalog. But it took them a year to pay for it. They had to pay little pieces of it each month until they could pay for it. They didn't even have a Christmas for themselves so they could make sure I had that guitar.
Well, they really loved you. I mean, it must bring tears to your eyes to think about those parents.
It does. You know, I look back and I see the sacrifice. And the point is that in all of our Christmases, there are great messages. The sacrifice that they made was a reminder to me that the real Christmas, the first Christmas, was about the greatest sacrifice of all, that God gave up all of the glory of heaven to come and to give me something that I couldn't attain for myself. And it was years later before I fully comprehended. In fact, I don't think I'll ever comprehend just what God gave up to give me the best Christmas of all, which was himself.
You have a story in here of your wife had cancer, apparently a serious cancer wrapped around her spinal cord. Tell us about that. That must have been an awful ordeal.
It was a terrible ordeal, and it happened just barely a year into our marriage. We got married when we were very young, Pat. We were both 18, a few months shy of our 19th birthdays. By the time we were barely 20, my wife had been diagnosed with cancer of the spine. And it did not look good. And the original prognosis was that there probably wasn't anything that could be done. It was when I think our faith was tested to its core. And I always will remember what one of my friends said to me. He's a wonderful Bible teacher. And he said this. He said, "You don't know that Jesus is all you need until he's all you got." And he also made this comment. He said that when you hit bottom, he said, the good thing you find out is at least it's solid at the bottom. And those things sustained us during that period. But the stories in the book talk about how that Christmas is that milestone. You know, you think, if I can just make it to Christmas, or if you have a difficult moment like we did with my wife's cancer, the next Christmas you celebrate. You don't celebrate gifts. You don't celebrate food. You celebrate life, because you realize how close you were to losing it. And the struggles of her having to learn to walk again and going through radiation therapy and all the post-surgical issues, you come away from that with a whole different understanding. And as I like to say, Christmas was never the same after that.
Sure. You have had an amazing career. You mentioned in this book about A Simple Christmas, about the fact that you folks didn't have any money. You lived in apparently a boxcar by the railroad tracks, courtesy of the Southern Baptist.
Oh, when my wife and I first married, Pat, we lived in a $40 a month apartment. It was grossly overpriced at $40 a month. You know, when I look back, we had some wonderful times, but Christmas also for most of us is not so much about the quantity of material things. It's really relationships. And I think the power of the real Christmas story, the first Christmas, and this is the framework of the whole Christmas book, A Simple Christmas, and it's this, that when God gave us the first Christmas, the one in Bethlehem, it was not trappings of royalty and robes, and there weren't even any choirs of angels. It was a young, pregnant, unwed teenage girl with no Lamaze classes, no epidural or saddle block. There was no silent night. She was surely screaming. I mean, this must have been a painful, difficult night. And I talk about that we have this sort of sanitized church pageant version of the first Christmas. If we looked in on it right now, it would look like an unmitigated disaster, like God really messed this up. But God chose the most humble, let me use this word, humiliating circumstances for the birth of himself on this earth to remind us that there's no place we can get on this planet that is so low that God hasn't been there himself, because that's how he started too.
That's beautiful. One thing I've got to ask you, you know, are you going to run for anything?
I'm so busy running now all over the country doing all the things I've got going. And the honest answer, because people do, you know, wonder, am I really have this ulterior motive running for president in 2012? I tell people we're barely into a year of the last election. For heaven's sakes, let's take a breather for a while. So I don't know.
I'm with you. And we're also got to ask you, you lost 100 pounds and ran 3 marathons. You're awesome.
Well, 4, Pat. I want to make sure you get to 4.
Oh, I'm sorry, 4 marathons. Forgive me.
No, it was a very, I think, important period of my life when I realized that I had to take better care of myself, that my body didn't belong to me. And, you know, it's one of those things you learn the hard way. But if it is the temple, then we better keep it in better shape than I was keeping mine.
Well, Mike, you've had a great success. I'm so thrilled at what's happening in your life and will continue to do so. We wish you the best. And this book, ladies and gentlemen, it'll make a marvelous gift for Christmas. Mike Huckabee, A Simple Christmas. There's some marvelous stories, the kind of thing that'll touch your heart. You can read them together as a family.
Absolutely.
Have you read it?
No, I haven't read it yet, so I'm going to be stealing that one.
You got it. All right. Well, you read it and tell me what you think. Well, Mike Huckabee, thank you, my friend. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Pat. God bless.